My name is Dimitri Ukolov. I'm here to teach history, particularly about one man, one myth, one legend, a person who became a god in his death. And that's right, I'm talking about Roman Emperor Vespasian. Now, if you don't know who Vespasian is, what are you doing? Who are you? Why did you come here then? Well, since you're so ignorant, let me, His Holy Majesty, enlighten thy with my big brain knowledge about Roman emperors who most people wouldn't consider that very important. But you'd be wrong. Vespasian, or better known as Titus Flavius Vespasianus, because Latin names are hard and I can't pronounce them for any reason, was a Roman emperor who ruled from 69 AD to 79 AD, which is very impressive considering the fact that the average Roman emperor reigned for about 8 years, which isn't that long considering a human lifespan is, what, right now about 80 years for a man, 90 years for a woman? You know, so you can go just list through like 9, 10 emperors in your lifetime. Oh god. Vespasian would unite a Rome that was disunited during a civil war, which happened after the death of Emperor Nero, who isn't a pyromaniac and definitely did not destroy and burn Rome, blaming it on the Catholics to build his grand palace. Do not believe what the liberal media has told you, it's all barbarian paid propaganda by those gosh darn Visigoths. Vespasian would go on to build great monuments, restore the Roman treasury, destroy Jerusalem after a Jewish revolt, and also introduce the first paid public bathrooms, which I didn't even know were happening back then. But you know what? Apparently they're still there in multiple Italian cities, so you know what? They work. They just work. Wow. Do you know what Vespasian did during his emperorship? We must first go into his epic, absolutely brilliant, godlike backstory to learn why he is so impactful. And trust me, the emperorship will change so many hands in such a short time, it will make season 8 of Game of Thrones look well paced. Heh, he made a pop culture reference. Titus Flavius Vespasianus was born around 9 AD in Rieti, Latium, and was born the son of a tax collector. In his early life, Vespasian was overshadowed by his elder brother, Flavius Sabinus, who rose to hold an important command on the Danube, a river near modern-day Yugoslavia, or I guess the remnants of Yugoslavia, politics be like that, around 48 AD, and was prefect of Rome for many years under Nero. Vespasian hesitated in following his brother's footsteps and joining the Senate. However, his career was by no means less illustrious, and he had military service in Thrace and a quaestorship in Crete. He would continue with this career, participating in the conquest of Britannia. He once was the governor of a province in Africa where his thrift and extreme financial rigor made him unpopular by those filthy plebs who did not understand modern economics of that time, and he would also lead a legion to crush the Jewish revolt in the empire, something that he would do frequently. But you see, life is pretty peachy for our boy Vespasian. He's getting stacks of cash, loads of promos, and lots of rep with the emperors who consider him a safe man. Someone who is competent, but due to his low social status, was never going to be threatening enough to become emperor themselves. But how things change. So once Nero died, Rome entered a period known as the Four Emperors period, when Rome had 4 emperors in... wait, 1 year? They had 4 in 1 year? Oh god, oh no, why? It's already complex! The Four Emperors period was a period in which Rome would be in constant civil war, where 4 emperors would be in power in 1 year. So Vespasian was involved in this period by supporting one emperor at that time period, Galba, a noble governor of Syria who just as quickly as he got into power, got assassinated on January 15th in 69 AD. Vespasian, by the way, only wanted Galba in power because he made an agreement that Vespasian would be allowed to fight the Jews again. So the news of Titus's bro's death reached him on his way to Corinth. Obviously, like any sane man, he would immediately realize that Italy was going into a civil war. He had no obligations to anyone else, and the other 2 contenders to the throne were not his rivals. One, Otho, who was emperor for only 3 months, was defeated and killed himself in April 16th. And this was really when Titus started to collect support and prepare for his ascension. but then through a very convoluted and downright so complicated that it had become a piece of art plot, 2 legions in Egypt proclaimed him as imperator, or emperor. To ensure his base of power, he fought a quick war with the Jews, something that he loved more than wine and women. He then got support from a random Roman legionary commander. I don't know if you've heard about him, but this man, Antonius Primus, who knows, Roman names are hard. This man, Antonius, would gather 5 legionary armies, destroy the main Vitalian force near Cremona, and sack the city. Antonius then proceeded victoriously to march southwards, entering Rome on December 20th, when Vitalis was posthumously murdered by his own troops. But Antonius arrived too late to prevent the execution of Vespasian's brother Sabinus, who had been persuaded to occupy the capital with his small force, which was then besieged and stormed by Vitalian's force. Of course, once, Vespasian got the victory and became emperor, he gave no thanks to Antonius, who, conquered and defeated his rivals for him, captured Rome for him, and, made him emperor. But you know what? Who cares? He quickly took over, Vespasian quickly took over the reins of government and became imperator. So, sucks for Antonius, but on to Vespasian. The Senate, which was a mere, formality at that point, confirmed Vespasian's emperorship. Then, with the big brain that Vespasian had, he would use his military force to increase the power that he already had from the emperorship. He would also immediately begin talking up his humble origins and publicizing the divine omens he claimed had predicted his spectacular rise, because God ordained it, and divine right rules all. Next, once Vespasian came into power and became emperor, he focused on the Romans' economy, which was as barren as the fields of Carthage. I'm sorry, sweet prince. Now, you might be asking yourselves, now wait a second, Dimitri, isn't Rome the greatest power in the known world? How can they have such a deficit in money that their treasuries are running low? Well, if I knew that, I could have fixed the US economy and got rid of their debt. But what I do know is that it's mostly due to Nero's extravagant spending on his palace and lifestyle, which was quite expensive at the time, as well as the constant civil wars, which we have previously mentioned. Vespasian was able to fill the city's vaults with cold, hard cash by raising taxes and reclaiming public land. He would use some of this money on massive building programs, which included temples, theater, and early works on what would become the Colosseum. So, thank my boy that you got that tourist attraction that was made for blood and gore. He then turned his attention to the army. In a wholesale reorganization, he restored discipline, removed the officer loyal to Vitellius, and also ended the war in Judea, the Roman province for Jerusalem, with only a minor burning in Jerusalem. As well in Britain, he conquered Wales and northern England. However, at the time, Vespasian was changing the traditional image of the emperor. He approached his work with an earthly humor and common sense unusual in someone of his rank. He provided the first real stability since Claudius 20 years earlier. Although he had gained his position through violence and was still technically a military dictator, he legitimized himself and his dynasty by offering Rome a stable and peaceful future. But my boy, despite all of this, was still a comedian at heart. This absolute mad lad in 79 AD, when he was dying, joked, "Oh, I think I'm becoming a god." Mocking the Roman tendency to turning the dead emperors into gods. Imagine your own god and leader mocking your religion like an absolute fool. That's what the Romans were, fools for him. Ha! An absolute comedian and mad lad, even in death. That's Vespasian for you. Also known as a very known Jew hater. Vespasian had brought Rome through a time of bitter civil war and left the empire stronger than ever. He stabilized the succession of Rome by proclaiming his son's emperor, brought money into the empire, reorganized the army, conquered Britannia, and destroyed Jerusalem, and even constructed great public works, one of which is a major tourist attraction. So hey, I mean, you can't go there, because, a life-threatening disease, coronavirus, is rampaging through Rome, Italy, and most of the world. We're all in quarantine, and if you don't live in Rome, you probably can't see it, but, it's theirs. So that's pretty cool, and you can look at images of it on Google. Now we see why Vespasian was such an interesting character, and so integral, so important towards Rome's progression as an empire. Well, anyway, this has been me, Dimitri Ukolov, who wants to be a haha funny mans on the internet. Hopefully you've learned something, or at least had a couple of chuckles at me, at the jokes I made, or just at Vespasian, I don't know. Good night.